On December 5th, Japanese Navy got its first aircraft carrier after a 76-year-long hiatus, stemming from the end of the World War II. To be more exact, this is what happened. Some of the US Marines F-35Bs were tested operating from the Japanese biggest ship, the Flattop Izumo. 2 Izumo-class ships were commissioned in recent years, and they're by far bigger than previous Japanese ships, displacing up to 27,000 tons. That's more than the UK's old Invincible-class aircraft carriers. The tests are a part of a much larger effort to validate conversion of the Izumo ships into more proper fixed-wing aircraft carriers, and they mark the first time the Japanese Navy used one of their ships as carriers after all this time. Way back in 2010, 5 years before the first Izumo was commissioned, some media claimed that certain design features were already pre-planned to support fixed-wing planes. Its elevators, for example, are already sized for F-35 and not just helicopters. Back then, the Japanese Navy said nothing of those plans. Then, in February 2018, the official confirmation of the plans finally came. Japan announced that it would procure 40 F-35B planes. Those are the short takeoff and vertical landing variants, used by the US Marines on their assault ships as well as by the Royal Navy on their Queen Elizabeth-class carriers. In December 2018, the Japanese government finally announced that Izumo-class ships would be modified to support fixed-wing aircraft. The ships themselves had their designations changed from helicopter destroyers to multi-purpose destroyers. As it's evident now, the plan to train the Japanese with the US Marines' help is ongoing. The Japanese Navy will get experience through US Marines' feedback using Izumo. The F-35Bs will be delivered in batches, beginning from 2023 and lasting until 2025. Besides the Japanese Air Force using the ships, it's very evident that the interoperability with the US is the long-term goal as well. The Japanese defense minister was paraphrased saying, "There may be no runway available for the US aircraft in an emergency. The US F-35B may be placed on Japanese ships." In 2020, the conversion process of the first ship began. The first stage was completed quickly, reinforcing the deck, changing the markings, installing power supply equipment and various landing aid subsystems. After more testing runs done by US Marines and later Japanese F-35s, the second stage of conversion is scheduled to start before the end of 2024. That one will change the shape of the bow so takeoffs are safer, and it will implement numerous internal compartment changes to facilitate pilots and the deck crew's quarters, fuel and ammo storage, and the like. The sister ship Kaga will receive all its changes at once after the Izumo ends its conversion in 2026. Izumo class is likely to be used a lot like the US America or Wasp class when those are configured to serve as aircraft carriers. Of course, Wasp's main role is assault, serving amphibious or air assault craft. Thus, they are much heavier. But their decks are actually quite similar. Wasp's length is a bit bigger than Izumo's, though it's also a tad narrower. They both have 2 elevators, though one of the Izumo's elevators is narrower, placed in the middle of the deck. It can still hold an F-35 though. Still, both ship types should very easily conduct a similar pace of air operations, considering the same deck area and the fact that a lot of the space inside Wasp is used for amphibious operations. While exact dimensions of the Izumo's hangar are unknown, it's at least as long as Wasp's hangar. Wasp, when configured as a carrier, can serve some 20 F-35Bs. It's likely that Izumo will be capable of a similar number. Given that the F-35B is a stealthy supersonic multi-role fighter with advanced avionics, those Izumo ships will transform the Japanese Navy's capabilities. Though the F-35B has a shorter range and its internal bomb base can't hold most types of cruise missiles. Still, after decades of waiting, Japan will once again have quite useful aircraft carriers. While there won't be a match for US supercarriers nor the new Chinese big carriers, they will still be a force to be reckoned with. And given the ever-increasing instabilities in the region, who knows if additional future carriers might be in store for Japan as well. And remember, Binkov may talk about hypothetical wars, but only real peace can bring us all together.